incomplete dominance. It is observed that in certain cases, the phenotype of F1 generation is altogether different from both the parents. Let us take an example of dog flower. Here we took red flowers and white flowers, red parent and white parent. We took the gametes and we found the F1 all pink flowers were formed. Now this pink phenotype is neither similar to red nor to white. When we further took it down to F2 generation, we observed that these are the gametes. Now what we observed is that the phenotypic ratio is equal to the genotypic ratio, that is 1 red, 2 pink and 1 white is visible, and as you can say 1, 2 and 1. So the phenotypic and genotypic ratio are similar. Now how this is happening, why it happened, let us understand with a example. Suppose there is a substrate S and an enzyme is required for the conversion of this substrate S. Now as we know, in diploid organisms there are two pair of alleles, that is a gene is in copies, that is two pair of alleles are present and these alleles can be dissimilar in nature. How they are dissimilar in nature? The allele may have undergone some modification, and this modification we will study later in other chapter, how this modification is happening, how this modification occurs, and yes, what is the reason for this modification, at what changes we observe once this modification has occurred. So suppose now this modified allele is coding for the enzyme production for the conversion of this substrate. In, let us consider three cases. In first case, this allele produces an enzyme which is equal to the normal enzyme or less efficient than the normal enzyme. So it will lead to substrate conversion. So there will not be any change in the phenotype, that is we will see the same phenotype. But if it produces non-functional enzyme or no enzyme at all, we will see that substrate is not being converted and yes, the phenotype is being affected. Hence it is believed that the allele which has been modified is recessive in nature, and this allele only leads to the formation of a different phenotype or a different expression of the character, whereas the unmodified allele is the one which is responsible for the normal functioning or the normal expression of the character. This is known as the phenomenon of incomplete dominance. Two pair of alleles, they may be dissimilar in nature. Now, one may undergo modification and after modification certain changes will occur. Let us understand with an example. Suppose teeth are required to eat an apple. Now T, this is the allele which gives us teeth to eat apple. If this allele T is modified to this T, now there will be three cases. In first case, it will produce the normal teeth which was being produced by this T or less efficient teeth. So we will be able to eat the apple. But it may happen that it may not produce any teeth at all, or it may produce non-functioning teeth which cannot chew apple. So, this modified allele which is recessive in nature when is expressed, then is the difference in the phenotype, and the unmodified is responsible for the normal phenotype and normal functioning. This is known as incomplete dominance.